welcome everybody to our Meet the Teachers, our final one of the whole series, if you like. Orly has interviewed all of the teachers and all of the behind the scenes over the last few months, and I'm excited now to put her in the hot seat. So welcome, Orly, to our chat today. How are you?
I'm good. It's so exciting and so strange to be on the other side of the interview. But I'm really looking forward to it, Carrie.
Great. Wow. Let me share some of the wonderful questions that we've had from the community with you. So the first question, Orly, I have is, we'd love to know a little bit more about what goes on in your non-yoga life. So Ruth has asked about your acting experiences. What have been your favorite roles? Have you met any famous people? And what would your dream role be?
I've got a really great story. I'm excited to share with you, actually. So the biggest thing I worked on was a Marvel film. It was The Marvels, Captain Marvel 2. And for that, I had to work alongside Brie Larson and Samuel L. Jackson for quite a few days on set. And obviously I was like fangirling. Samuel L. Jackson was right there in front of me, and I was just being an extra, like pottering around on stage in my little spacesuit. And there was fire on stage, and there were cats. It was bonkers. And we had to like run across the stage as though there was an emergency, and we kept reshooting this scene where I had to run down some stairs and run across the stage and run in between Samuel L. Jackson and the camera as they were also moving across the stage. And it was the scariest moment of my life, because I was like, if I time this very slightly wrong, if I mistime this whatsoever, I could just go straight into Samuel L. Jackson, knock him down. That would be the end of his filming on this movie for a while, and I would just be like blacklisted from ever being an extra again. Thankfully, that didn't happen. And if you do watch the film, you can just see like the briefest flash of like my bob haircut, which I had at the time. It's like zooming past Samuel L. Jackson. You can barely even tell that I'm there, but like I know that I was there, and it was a very significant memory for me, and quite an amazing, surreal one. So that's probably the thing that I always return to. I still can't really believe that happened. It was quite a fun story, I think.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing, Ollie. Love to see a photo of you in your spacesuit as well. Amazing. Thank you so much. Okay, so the next question we have comes from Yulia. And she would love to know what inspired you to become a yoga teacher, and what is your favorite part of teaching?
So I I always, I might have told some of you this story before, because it's obviously a huge, significant kind of milestone in my the journey of my life so far. But I never really expected to be a yoga teacher. I went into academia and I studied sociology at MA, and I found that to be very, very intense and challenging, and it didn't really serve me so well in terms of my mental health. And because I was so busy with that, I felt as though I did not have the time to practice yoga. I was like, oh, I just need to like focus on my studies. And then when I finished, I did complete my master's. I came out. I was like, what am I going to do with this time that I've got on my hands? And I dedicated myself to practicing about 4 or 5 times a week. It was more than I'd ever practiced before. And I had the realization that if I had just practiced whilst I was studying, then it would have really helped me to move through my masters in a way that felt healthier than it actually did in reality. And by that point, I certainly felt that there was I knew that I couldn't continue with academia at that stage in my life. And I was like, what am I going to do next? And yoga had become this lifeline for me. It kind of saved me in a multitude of ways, from all these mental health like challenges I had going on. And I went to India. I was very privileged in that I could go to India and get my yoga teacher training. And I suppose I didn't really expect that I would necessarily go into teaching right away, but I was lucky. I actually set up a class in the Brewdog in Newcastle when I got back, and we'd kind of do yoga before everyone came in and started drinking the beer on a Saturday morning. And someone that was opening up a studio came in, and she attended one of my classes, and she asked me to go and work for them. And then from there, everything kind of snowballed. And I don't know what I would do without yoga. I'm sure that a lot of people that find it and dedicate themselves to it in the way that many of our project attendees do. Like, what was I doing? How was I managing before I found yoga? So being able to practice that all the time, getting to meet the wonderful people, make amazing connections that you inevitably make along the way when you prioritize yoga in that way within your life, is, yeah, I don't know where I would be without it. Like, everything, even if I do end up going on to study something else, I know that yoga is now always going to be a part of my life. It's integral, and just being in a space where I can share that with other people that feel passionately about it too is, it's a real blessing. I'm very, very grateful for where I'm at.
Thanks so much, Orly. We are so grateful that you stumbled upon us, and that yoga has brought you all the way to the project. We're so happy that it worked out this way. Okay, so my next question is from Beth. So she wanted to know a little bit about where you did your training, which you've just touched upon, and that you did that in India, and then you were at the time living in Newcastle, which was when I was lucky enough to meet you. But then she'd like to know why and when you moved down to London, and you kind of took your teaching from Newcastle to London, and what took you? Was it the yoga or something else? And what's the big difference between?
So, in terms of my training, obviously I studied in India, and I've been lucky enough to return to schools there on a few occasions. I'm going to go to Cambodia in March for a couple of weeks, which is really exciting, and I'm going to go on a retreat there. So yoga has always had like an aspect for me that involves travel, moving around, and I think that really suits me as a person. Like, I quite like to change my environment. Like, people that come to my classes will see that sometimes I'm in Scarborough, sometimes I'm in Sheffield, sometimes I'm in London, and I find it quite invigorating to be in different spaces. I moved to London during lockdown, and the place that I was living, it was a small new build estate, and it really felt as though the apocalypse had come, and there was no other humans around. Like when you went for your walks, you'd rarely see another person, and if you did, they were like miles away. And as much as I loved Newcastle, I had been thinking about moving to London for a while because I have a lot of friends here. And then when the pandemic came, it was a very let's say brave. It was a very ambitious time to think about moving down the country from one side to the other. But I just craved kind of being in a new space, and I moved into a house where I lived with a very, very close friend that I'd known for many years. And when I went on my walks, everything was shut down. So it was a really nice time to come to London and not be overwhelmed by all of the amazing things that are going on. I could just like walk and explore new spaces. And yeah, I've been very lucky, I think, in terms of the timings. When studios started to reopen, I was able to kind of move into new studio spaces. And of course, I felt very blessed that I was able to take my frog project community with me to remain part of that. And yeah, that felt really important in terms of a stable place that I could keep coming back to, a place where I felt supported and yeah, around the love of the community. So thank you guys.
Thanks so much, Orly.
Thank you all.
It's great to hear about your move. And yeah, I can just imagine you walking around the big closed city of London, kind of basking in all the glory of the buildings and the space. And but it was quite a magnificent time to be there. London without the people must be pretty special. Okay. I have a question now from Heather, who is here watching live as well. So hi, Heather. Heather would like to know that if you were allowed to interview anybody in the world, meet the teacher's style, so just like this, 15 minutes, who would it be and why?
I forgot about this question. Do you know what? I'm gonna come back to you with a really sentimental answer, and that is gonna be I might tear up, but I wish that I'd interviewed my grandma when she was alive. She's this wonderful Scottish lady actually, and she lived life. She's an evacuee during the war. I think that she was evacuated from Glasgow, and she went to stay on a farm somewhere rural, and then eventually she moved to Scarborough. I think she met my granddad, who was visiting Glasgow with the Navy for one night, and then they decided that they were going to get married next time they saw each other. But there's a lot of gaps in terms of my knowledge of exactly how my grandma's journey looked. And it's also, just being able to sit down and have like a conversation, like ask someone that you loved so much, like the questions that you wish you'd asked them when they were around, would be, yeah, an unimaginable privilege. So yeah, Grandma Sybil is my answer to that question. What a nice question, Heather.
What a nice answer. Give me goosebumps all over. Thank you so much. Yeah, what a special opportunity that would have been to ask all those questions that now we as adults wish we'd asked and found out about. And yeah, knowledge we may never know. Grandma Sybil. Okay, we have a last question. This one's a little bit light. This one's my question. So one of the first things I found out about you when we got to spend some time together in person, well before COVID, when we first became friends and were teaching alongside each other, was your love of dogs and your sheer glee when you see a dog, you run over and you make friends with it and you talk to it, whether it's big or small, whether the owner's welcoming or not welcoming, you don't mind, you're off and you're with the dog and having a great time. I would love to know, if you were to have your own dog, do you have a dog in mind, a breed in mind that you would have, and do you have a name ready for it?
I would really like a huge dog. The biggest dog that I could find, maybe like a Great Dane. Um, the first dog that I had when I was a child was called Zelda, and I think that's a very cool name. Zelda's a very cool name for a dog. So maybe I'd name my Great Dane Zelda as a homage to Zelda I had when I was a baby. But I was thinking about this earlier today, and Cosmo kept coming to mind when I was thinking about what I would call my dog. And I don't know why. Maybe it's because I love cocktails as much as I love dogs. So maybe naming a dog after a cosmopolitan would be appropriate. Yeah, I don't know where that came from, but it kept coming back to me. I kept pushing it out, and it was like, no, you want to call your dog Cosmo. So let's go with that.
Amazing. I could see you with a big Great Dane as well. They're such fun. Walking around the city of London with your big Great Dane. Maybe one day. Oh, well, thank you so much, Orly. That brings us to the end of our questions, and it brings us to the end of our Meet the Teachers little program, which was magnificent. I know that everybody watching the videos and the lives have been really, really keen and loved getting to know you and all of the teachers and the behind the scenes. And hopefully this is going to just roll into some other feature that's going to be just as magnificent and fun for us all here at the Frog Project. So thank you to you, Orly, for all of your energy, and everybody else for leaving us your questions. We appreciate it so much. And thanks, Orly. Have a lovely rest of your day. And we'll see you very soon.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.